would you ask a pilot to fly a plane without a flight plan? I believe as a leader that I'm not going to come in and say, we want to grow by $1 billion a year. Well, because if I don't have the team to do it, then it's an unrealistic goal. I believe in a bottom-up strategy. I build a budget from the bottom up. And I believe when doing my KPIs, if you all as a team tell me what you want to do, I want to get my MBA, I want to be a certified financial planner, I want to bring in 10 new clients, I want to get married. Great. Tell me what each of you are trying to do. And then from the bottom up, I can funnel what we need to get to. And then it's very easy to track that. My partners and I came from Merrill Lynch. And when we were looking to leave, we decided we wanted to have something that was bold and powerful, kind of like the Super Bowl, the Roman numerals. And so we did. XML stands for X Merrill Lynch. I want every person who comes to XML to be able to retire at XML. And if I'm doing my job, you should be able to grow personally, professionally, and financially within the firm. And so when you look at companies that have 20, 30, 40-year seasoned veterans, I've got people that have been with the firm, since the day it started, multiple people, 20 years and et cetera. And I'm very proud of that. I look at the talent. And to me, if every deal I do, if every individual I hire adds more depth of talent to my team, not only do we benefit as a firm, the client benefits. I don't believe that I can properly lead this organization if I'm not doing the actual job that we are all about. And that meant that I needed to be an advisor. And so when I walk into that advisor's office, they can't say, Brett, you don't understand. No, I do. I think I am a much more accepting person. I'm more accepting of people and who they are. I'm not going to say their faults. We're different. And so I'm more accepting of understanding why a team member is the way they are. I might choose to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't expect someone else to work outside 9 to 5. That's their job, and they're great at their job. I have to learn to be more accepting. I've learned to listen more. I want to really understand why someone is upset or what they're trying to accomplish. Part is I'm a reality television junkie. I can't watch the news anymore. So my evenings are around junk reality television. The happier I am, I think I'm a better husband, father, leader of my business, and that all trickles down. I think that AI is the wave of the future, but I also think you said it best. If you can be replaced, then either you're not adding the value or you have the wrong client.
This is the Business Philosopher Within You podcast. I'm your host, Bhavesh Naik. A core focus of our podcast is building high-performing, people-centered businesses that can stand the test of time, with special attention given to what I call brainy businesses, those that employ professional expertise that cannot be replicated by algorithms and artificial intelligence. To explore just how to build such a business, I've invited a very special guest to join us. Brett Bernstein is the CEO and co-founder of XML Financial Group, who built it from the ground up into a dynamic, people-first organization. He has led XML through 3 successful acquisitions, expanding the firm from 4 to 50 full-time employees in multiple locations. Brett has a unique philosophy on growth, which emphasizes investing in people to create exponential value and ensuring that the company's culture remains vibrant, even with significant expansion. With his rare insight from serving both as a leader and as a practicing financial advisor, Brett has cultivated a future-focused organization that thrives on innovation and mentorship, built to last well beyond any single generation. As a regular commentator for Forbes, Investment News, and Financial Advisor magazine, Brett brings a compelling blend of substance, clarity, and an entrepreneurial spirit to fellow founders and business builders. I am pleased to have you on this podcast, Brett.
Thank you for having me.
So, Brett, seems like XML Financial Group. XML seems like a very intriguing name. I have a feeling that there is a story behind that. What's the story of that name?
Yeah, no, there is a story behind it. My partners and I came from Merrill Lynch, and when we were looking to leave, we decided we wanted to have something that was bold and powerful, kind of like the Super Bowl, the Roman numerals. And so we did. And so while we don't trade as it, XML stands for X Merrill Lynch. That is where we came from. They weren't too happy with that name, but the Roman numerals do actually equate to a section of the IRS tax code about asset acquisition. So it was just ironic, right, that we wanted this bold Roman numeral situation. The joke was the ex Merrill Lynch, and it happened to correlate to asset acquisition. So, there's a story behind it. It's stuck for 20 years, and we love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it too. That's a great story. And that Merrill Lynch, the fact that Merrill Lynch isn't so happy about it, that kind of adds a little flavor to
It
the
does.
name, right?
It does.
So I have a feeling that you have a philosophy. There must have been a reason why you thought that 2004, right? That's when you left Merrill Lynch and started this company. And what was the reason why? What was the inspiration behind starting the company? Was it a problem that you were setting out to solve for someone, or was it some other reason?
I think there are a few things. Number one, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. Merrill Lynch was a great place. I learned a lot. But, when you work for a major organization like that, you can't necessarily be entrepreneurial. So that was the first thing.
True.
The second thing was I was a producing sales manager at the time. So I had my own clientele, and I was also producing sales manager. And one of the meetings I was doing was entitled, "Are you getting your 60 cents worth?" Meaning for every dollar I generated the firm in revenue, they were taking 60 cents and I would get 40 cents.
Yeah.
And I got to the back of the room and I looked at my now partner and I said, "I don't think I am. What am I getting for that?" And, I was having to apologize for different analysts in the paper picking the wrong stocks or someone being sued for something. And I said, you know what, there's got to be a better way. And, 20 plus years ago, people didn't leave a firm like Merrill Lynch and traditionally go independent. They tended to take a paycheck like an athlete, and they would leave and go from Merrill Lynch to Morgan Stanley or, pick the large firm that was out there.
Sure.
And we didn't. We said that all the things that we didn't like about a firm like Merrill Lynch were the same at all the other large banks, brokerage firms, and wirehouses. And so we, I don't like to use the word pioneer, but I think in that era, it was a little bit unique not to take a big check, to come out of pocket, to start our own company. And that's exactly what we did. So it was a plethora of reasons of why we did it. And it just kind of all, came to a head.
Yeah, absolutely. And that must have been a bit scary too at the time.
Very. Yeah. I mean, I was the only one who had a spouse who was working. My other partners did not. So it was definitely scary because you couldn't tell your clients you were leaving. You have to resign on a Friday afternoon. You can't solicit your clients, and you have to hope, at least by simple announcement, that they would follow you. So it's very scary.
Right. So who was the client that you had in mind? Whose problem were you solving, or whose objectives and aspirations and dreams that you thought that you could help realize or bring about?
So our traditional client is what I say mass affluent to high net worth.
Sure.
And those clients, generally speaking, aren't utilizing maybe some of the very high-end services that the big banks and brokerage firms may have, right? This was not AT&T's stock option plan or their 401k plan. These are individuals and couples, small to medium-sized businesses who needed good financial planning. They needed someone to hold their hand. They needed someone to remove the emotion from their decisions. They needed very sound and independent investment advice, but they didn't need investment banking. They didn't need the corporate services. So not only were they paying for it, but me as an advisor felt that it was just services that my clients didn't need. And so rather than be in a situation where it was kind of pushed upon you, we said we'd rather have something in our own firm where there was nothing. And we pick the financial planning software. We pick the investment strategy. There's no conflict of interest between a research department and an investment banking arm. So being independent really means that. We pick what we think is in the best interest of our client.
Right. So it's almost as if you don't have a sort of a stake in what the client, what the best strategy is for the client in terms of their wealth management. Right. It's not like, if you go with this firm, you make more money or we make more money. It wasn't something like that. So there's no conflict of interest in that way, right? And you kind of basically do what's best for the client.
Always do what's best for the client. Yes. I mean, it's not to say that, there were, and a lot has changed over the 20 years, right? But
Sure.
for example, and they may still be there today, there's something called pay to play. I mean, think about it. You go in the grocery store and General Mills pays to get a cereal box at the end cap, eye level, right? There's a reason why.
Right.
And a lot of the big firms have a pay to play, meaning money managers, separately managed
Sure.
accounts, mutual funds. If they want to get on the platform and have that 15,000 financial advisor distribution, cost them something.
Sure.
When you're independent, most people don't have the money to pay, so they don't.
Yeah.
And so when we went independent, we found many amazing separately managed accounts and mutual funds. And we said, wait a second, how come I didn't see you at the bigger firm? They said, we don't have the money to pay them, so we don't.
Yeah.
And I said, that's fascinating to me. So it's not that those business models are wrong. They are very appropriate, right?
Right.
But we didn't feel they were appropriate for us, and they weren't appropriate for our clientele and the clientele we were looking to continue to grow.
Absolutely. And it seems like that right in there is a different differentiator, as in, if someone, a client comes to you and say, I want to work with you, and they have all these other options, right? And one of the questions I like to ask folks is, why would someone do business with you and not the other folks? And I think therein is your answer, right? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I think, it's the client service model, right? How we interact with our clients. So all of us have regulations we have to deal with, FINRA, DOL, SEC, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with a company's rules and regulations. So when, for instance, I can post on LinkedIn, I can text properly, right, with client compliance approved software. I can interact with clients and they can receive us the way that they want to be received. But if I was at a large firm, and I'm not here to badmouth Merrill Lynch, I think it's a great firm. But any large firm like that, they have 15,000 people that when they want to move something, when they want to move the Titanic, right, it's not that easy to move it.
Exactly.
When I want to do something, we make a policy and procedure. Our technology, our marketing, our compliance team approve it and make sure it's kosher, right, with all the regulators.
Absolutely.
And then we implement it into our firm. So how we communicate, how our clients receive us, the client service model was something that was extremely important to us and something that I could not customize in that model, but I can in my own.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. When you started XML, Brett, did you have sort of, I hear two kinds of stories, and then there's a third option, which is sort of in the middle, which is some folks have a vision of what they thought it would be, right? You go into business and you think, you have sort of like a dream that my firm is going to be like this. These are the kinds of customers I'm going to serve. And, this is how many people I'm going to have. So you have sort of a vision of an idea of what your business would be somewhere down the line, right? So some people go in with that. And so for some, it is just more like a snowball effect where something just kind of sticks, and then they do more of that, and then it rolls and it gets bigger. So, and then the third option is somehow, you start doing something and then you pivot and something else kind of gets traction in the marketplace. What was your vision when you started XML?
Yeah, I think our vision, I don't think we drastically pivoted, but our vision was to first, start our own firm and hope that we had success, that our clients would follow us.
Sure.
And then from there, it was to listen to them and replicate that, right? And I think, one of my partners says, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen more than we speak.
Sure.
I know today we're doing a lot of talking, but that was the whole thing. Let's listen. And then if we could listen to our clients, we could then go ahead and replicate that and grow it.
Sure.
And we did that. And we grew the firm organically. I wouldn't say there was a secret sauce. I wouldn't say we do it, significantly better than anyone. We just work hard and put our heads down.
Right.
But then we knew, and after we did our first, we knew that we needed to also exponentially grow through M&A and through a strategy.
Sure. Yeah.
And we started to do it on our own and realized that it's very hard. The financing is very unique. There's very complicated tax strategies behind it. And did we want to continue down that path, or did we want to partner, which is what we did. We partnered with a silent private equity partner who allowed us to turbocharge our growth. So it was done in phases. It was first bring the business, grow the business, Now, how do you start to exponentially grow it? And so it's been a natural path, but we have not pivoted. I think the vision always was to grow, to be as big as we can.
Right.
I think to keep the culture being a fun and relaxed environment, yet professional where it needs to be with clients.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think it's also there's a reason that the firm is not named after any individual people, no disrespect to people who do that.
Yeah.
But the business is bigger than myself or my partner, Rob or Mark or Curtis or anyone.
Yeah.
The business is meant to be a legacy that passes on when we're not here. And that was something, which is why when we go back to the first question you asked about the XML, we didn't call it, Bernstein, Cantor and Associates,
right?
By design.
Right.
So it's the very infancy of this was all about creating a legacy.
Absolutely. I love that legacy part. So that vision, and I think you referred to something called M&A, and M&A, I think you mean mergers and acquisition.
Yes.
So did you acquire a company or did you merge with other firms? Is that how you grew?
Yeah, little of each.
Yeah.
So we had done a small acquisition. So we had acquired a small firm in Northern Virginia, and it was great and allowed that gentleman to retire. And someone who was more junior on their team has grown into being a very senior wealth advisor, certified financial planner, and the clients, I think, amazingly handled along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very challenging to do that. And so in 2016, we kind of hit a fork in the road. Did we want to maintain as a lifestyle practice? And trust me, there's days when, there were 7 of us and no personalities to deal with. And there's something wrong with the lifestyle practice. Or do we want to turbocharge our growth? And we did. We ultimately partnered with Focus Financial Partners. They are they were private. They went public. Now they're private again. But they are a private equity silent partner that has done hundreds and hundreds of M&A activity in the RIA and the wealth management space. And so we decided to partner with them. They allowed us to still independently run and control our business, which we do. But it allowed us to do 3 subsequent acquisitions that in 2016, when we joined, we were $500 million. And today we're nearly $4 billion in client assets that we serve. Wow. I'd like to think the market had a little bit to do with that, but it was really through some significant M&A strategies. And so we felt that partnering with the leader and an expert in the industry was going to allow us to turbocharge that growth.
Sure. And you mentioned something that is so important, so crucial. And I'm so glad to talk that I'm talking with you about this, because you said there are 7 people in the office. And you mentioned lifestyle business, right? Lifestyle business meaning that basically you are there. If you show up, the business is there. If you stop showing up, the 7 of you, the business goes away, right? But you wanted to create a legacy business, which was right there at the start of the vision that you had, right? From the beginning, you wanted to build a legacy business that can be passed on to the future generations. And so then you did mergers and acquisition, and you partnered and you did other things to grow this business. So then the idea is that, one of the problems that I see a lot in smaller firms is that the business becomes dependent, and I call it the dependency epidemic now. The business becomes dependent on one or a few people at the top who are running it charismatically. They could call it charismatic leadership. It's a force of personality kind of leadership. You show up and you make things happen, but then you kind of step back a little bit. So the idea is when you grow the firm beyond yourself, you step back and empower the others. You build a culture, and I think that's something else that you mentioned. Build a culture that can go on even when you're not involved. Is that so some of that is what you brought into the firm as you did mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, look, at the end of the day, we have an amazing partnership, and my partners have entrusted me to run, the business. I there has to be someone that's leading the charge, leading the vision, not just for the partners, but the firm as a whole.
100%.
I think where businesses fail is when you have too many cooks in the kitchen. And so I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do that. So it doesn't mean that I'm not, I'm indispensable. It doesn't mean I can't be replaced. But the reality is, if I'm a good leader, I have to do certain things, right? I've been on other podcasts and I've been in articles and things where I say, for example, equity is something that is available to anyone at the right time. It doesn't
Sure.
matter what your role is, your revenue. And it
Sure.
started when there were two of us. Okay. And
Yeah.
now there are
Yeah. 7
equity partners. They're not all
Right.
producing wealth advisors.
Yeah.
We have a diverse, ownership pool of men and women. And I think that shows that we actually put our money where our mouth is. This is not, two guys sitting there controlling the whole company. We truly
Yeah.
have to mentor and grow people. And for different
Yeah.
reasons, someone might want to become an equity owner in the business. And there's reasons where
Sure.
someone may not want to. So I
Yeah.
think it comes to, yes, someone has to be driving the vision of what's going
Absolutely.
on.
Yeah.
If we're not, I think people do get complacent. I think you also, when you do M&A activity, you have to try to become like one firm, but you have to respect the cultures of each individual firm. And
Yeah.
there's different ways you can do mergers and acquisitions. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can do which is called an asset grab. I just want to grab the assets. To
Right.
me, while that's important, I look at the talent. And to me, if every deal I do, if every individual I hire adds more depth of talent to my team, not only do
Sure.
we benefit as a firm, the client benefits. And so
Absolutely.
we have put
Yeah.
together committees. I have leadership and operations and different investment committees where people from across the firms get together. They collaborate. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, yes, there is a figurehead that's driving the vision, but allowing
Yes.
other people to have a voice that's heard, listening to
Yeah.
their experiences, and then trying to
Yeah.
implement them.
Absolutely. Even as you go through mergers and acquisitions, you are trying to keep a thread or a strand of a vision and the philosophy that you have as a leader, and the original founders and the 7 equity holders, right?
Right.
You try to keep that thread even through those mergers and acquisitions, right? Even as you bring in other, and I'm sure that they have their own cultures and
Yes.
own ways of doing things, right? And that must be a tightrope. Is there any nuggets of gold that you can share in terms of how do you do that? What is it that you need to be mindful of as you go about bringing your culture into these other firms that they have their own ways of doing things and cultures?
It's hard. Yeah, you said it's a tightrope and a very thin one.
Uh-huh.
I think the first thing, like I alluded to before, is you need to listen. You need to understand what has made that particular business successful and where the team might feel there's been weaknesses. Now, I'm not talking
Sure.
the figurehead at the top. You want to hear from all the people in the organization.
Yeah. Sure.
You then need to articulate what your goals are, right? What are your goals as a firm as a whole and how you're
Sure.
bringing them together. And I think the other piece is when people feel that their voice is heard and they are part of the process, it is easier to adapt change. But if you come in and you try to, there are things you have to force, right? There's compliance things, using a CRM.
Right.
People don't have to like it, but there are things you have to do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to marketing, how we service the client, the investments you use, particular things like that, I'm not here to force a will on someone. I'm here to show, educate, we collaborate together, and then collectively, when we find something that we think is better for the client, then that particular person, that particular firm, or that team might say, yes, I now buy into it, and I can get behind it, which is very different than coming in and saying, we're going to do it this way, and that's where you start to get a lot of resistance.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the terms that I heard in the tech world is they call it the culture deck, which is a nod to the PowerPoint deck. Mm-hmm. And I recall at that the whole image of even having a culture deck, and it kind of means that you have a PowerPoint deck that you flip through and say, here's your culture. It's almost as if you're trying to install culture it's like software installing on the hardware. It doesn't work that way.
Well, it's funny. One of the mergers we did, we came in and I saw a swearing jar. And I said, what the F is this? Kind of I will start putting my money in. And I said, no. We're adults. We don't need a swearing jar. You should know when it's appropriate to say certain things and when it's not, right? You should know the audience that you're with. And so you have to look at the culture. I was just like, that didn't feel right to me to have a swearing jar where money goes into it.
Yeah.
And I took it away. And I just, it just was weird, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at these as little as that is, to me, it was creating a certain culture. Now, look, the pandemic changed everything, right?
Yeah,
from remote work, Zoom, all these different things. And while many businesses are back full time, we're not. we have felt we don't need to. Why do I need to force people in? Yes. Does it impact some collaboration? Sure. And do younger people need more of that? Absolutely. But I don't believe if forcing people in, the quality of life is important. So that's part of the culture, right? I know that if I forced my entire team back in 5 days a week and required all the people that moved away to move back, think of how many people I would lose that are amazing to my organization.
Absolutely.
So I can be very pig-headed and do that, and I know what that would do. Or I can say, if these are adults and we have the right systems and tools and training, have I created a culture that people want to be part of? The happier they are, they want to be here. I'll tell you a quick little story. We recently had a financial planner join our firm. I was not looking to hire him, kind of stumbled upon each other. And he wears one of those rings, I think it's the Aura Aloe ring or whatever it's called. He said the first week that he joined my firm, his stats went down so much, his stress level and everything, his sleeping patterns were better. I felt, this is amazing. He's like, you have an amazing wellness program. But it's not a wellness program. It's the culture was more conducive that rather than bark orders, it's set expectations, give people the respect and the professional rope they need to accomplish it, the goal that they have, and then let them do their job. And this one person in 1 week, he's been with me months now, but in 1 week of working with me said, I cannot believe that you're accomplishing as much as you are because you've created a culture that people want to be part of. And when we want to be part of something, the client only benefits from it. So it makes me as a leader feel good about it, but to get someone like that coming in who has data on his finger and sharing that with me really makes me feel that we're doing the right thing.
100%. And, I applaud you for even talking about this and happiness. You talked about it, they're happy, right? That they're happy to be here. And productivity and happiness, they're connected. And I have conversations with people and I work with people, and if they even just get this idea, you don't have to even try to act from it. Just get this in your head that productivity doesn't have to be this always hustle, always get stressed out. And, in fact, the happier you are, and happiness is not just watching TV or, not doing anything. Happiness is being engaged and being part of something that they want to be part of. All the things that you said.
Well, thanking someone. Just a simple, great job. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone goes above and beyond. You hand them a $50 Amazon gift card. It's the little things that people feel valued and they want to go above and beyond. Yes, I'm not talking about driven sales goals and KPIs and things that you're trying to go after. It's the culture as a whole. Now, it can be challenging because sometimes if the culture is too nice and too relaxed, you can lose a growth mindset. And so this year we've really dug into making sure it's kind of that one firm, kind of we call it one XML, where everyone at the firm, no matter your role, still needs to be focused on client retention, utilizing certain systems, next gen, right? Making sure you're engaging with children and grandchildren, and bringing new clients to the firm. Right? Yeah. Those are 4 key initiatives that we all, I don't care if you're answering the phone or a servicing advisor, we all have to think that way. And I've put, certain benefits in place for the firm as a whole. It's not one person getting it. We either all get it or we don't get it. And it's amazing how people come together to really help.
And you mentioned KPIs. So how do you balance? So, I believe that almost anything can be measured. You can measure happiness. You can do Likert scale and, ask people questions, rate your happiness on a scale of whatever to whatever, right? And you will have some data. But I think we're missing a point there, right? What do you think is the role of KPI? And then you also talked about the growth mindset. So this is another one of those balancing acts, right? That, you got to grow. You got to have a growth mindset, even as an individual employee working within a company, but you got to be quote unquote happy and part of something bigger than themselves and part of being a great culture. So what do you think is the role of KPI in managing all of these things?
It's tough. I've struggled like a lot of leaders have when I've asked everyone in the firm to do a business plan, and it doesn't matter what your role is. Right. I've mandated it. People don't do it. Right. I've mandated a different way. someone scribbles it on a napkin. Then I've backed off, and then I'll get, 4 people do it. And then I've simply said, would you ask a pilot to fly a plane without a flight plan? No, you would never get on an airplane. But you're asking me to drive a business, to invest in technology, from cybersecurity, new research. Expenses go up every year, right? Health insurance, raises, all those things.
Yeah.
But if you don't explain to me where you want to go, how can I help? Right? And so I believe as a leader that I'm not going to come in and say, we want to grow by $1 billion a year. Well, because if I don't have the team to do it, then it's an unrealistic goal. I believe in a bottom-up strategy. I build a budget from the bottom up. And I believe when doing my KPIs, if you all as a team tell me what you want to do, I want to get my MBA, I want to be a certified financial planner, I want to bring in 10 new clients, I want to get married. Great. Tell me what each of you are trying to do. And then from the bottom up, I can funnel what we need to get to. And then it's very easy to track that. Did you get married or didn't you? Did you get your CFP or not? Did you bring in your 10 new clients? So I'm not saying that's the right way, but I find if you do it that way, I'm not pushing my will. Yes, we all know that I'm trying to fly the plane from A to B. I'm trying to grow our business and serve our clients well. But there's 100,000 different ways I can fly that plane. So rather than me dictate which way, I'm asking people, how would you like to get there? And then my job is to help fly that plane there.
I find that fascinating, the bottom-up approach where you're actually going to each one of them and saying, what are your goals? What do you want? And they tell you A, B, C, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, whatever that is.
Or they don't tell you.
Or they don't tell you. I suppose that's part of the interplay. We have one-on-one with the manager and employee and communication. There is trust and all of that. And that sometimes can take time. Right, the trust grows, and then they feel comfortable sharing.
Yes.
All right, now I want to get married, or whatever, I want to have a baby, or something like that. And but what you're saying is that you have that, and they share, and then from that you build the company's financial goals.
Yes.
But now they have a stake in it. Meaning that it's personally tied to their own goals. So the company's goals are tied to their own goals. And then they are more engaged.
If they're not, then I can be asking someone to chop down a tree when they don't know how to chop down a tree. They don't believe in chopping down a tree, right? What doesn't make sense, right? So I need to understand each of you. Then, right, from those goals, I can back into it, I can build it, and then we monitor it, right? And we try to, have metrics to reward people for doing that.
Absolutely. You built this culture, Brett, and the unique culture, the thread that runs even through the acquisitions. And I'm kind of curious, what is one characteristic of that culture, or 1 or 2 or 3, however many you can come up with, that you are most proud of? What part of that culture, what aspect of that culture that you built is something that if you had to pick one thing that you're most proud of?
I have a saying that I use. I know it sounds corny. I want every person who comes to XML to be able to retire at XML. And if I'm doing my job, you should be able to grow personally, professionally, and financially within the firm. And so what that means is you need to be open-minded. If you're not happy, come share what you're not happy about. If there's an opportunity that you see within the firm that you'd like to learn how to get to, let's talk about it. If there's something we're not doing that you think you could bring to the table, then share it. But too many people will quickly go on LinkedIn and jump at some other job for a couple $1,000s. If you're happy, then and it's an open door policy, then let's talk about that, because you should never have to leave. And so when you look at companies that have 20, 30, 40-year seasoned veterans, I mean, I've got people that have been with the firm, since the day it started, multiple people, 20 years and et cetera. And I'm very proud of that. So I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm most proud of in our culture is people being able to speak their mind, think about how they can grow within the firm, and we help them. Does it always work? No. Do we hit bumps in the road? Of course we do. But I think that's something we really are proud about.
So you are at about 50 plus employees.
Yeah, I think we're
And
55-ish or so right now.
55-ish, and about 4 locations.
Yeah, 4 locations.
4 locations. That's awesome. And yeah, one thing I want to kind of get to, this is so important for our listeners and our audience to kind of get their teeth into, is this idea that you are a what you could call a producing member of the team, meaning that you also are a financial advisor.
Yes.
It's you still are, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it's not like you're not leading just full time. I mean, leading is a full time job.
Oh, yeah.
In a way, but you're also a participating advisor. What's that like? Are there any advice or nuggets of wisdom on how to balance these two aspects? Because there are two very different things.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, and no disrespect to people that are not doing the dual role. When I did a kind of 5-year plan, I did it with one of my custodians years ago, and they were really grilling me on being a leader. And I said, I don't believe that I can properly lead this organization if I'm not doing the actual job that we are all about. And that meant that I needed to be an advisor. Now, some would disagree and say it's one or the other. I've chosen I want to be an advisor. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm taking on many new clients. I'm very strategic. It means that I've built out an amazing team to support me, because I could not do what I do without the team that I have. So my partners and I have agreed that that's how we are going to do it. In order for me to be the CEO and lead the firm and the operations the way that I do, I have to be able to have this team to be an advisor. And so when I walk into that advisor's office, they can't say, Brett, you don't understand. No, I do.
Exactly.
Before today, our conversation now, I was presenting a financial plan with my team to a client in California. So I have to be able, I have to have the brain and to be able to pivot to go from interacting with the client and their retirement goals to talking to you about leadership and organizations, right? I think I have a brain, and that's my entrepreneurial spirit. And I love that because I feel like I have multiple jobs. But I also believe that when talking to my team, I'm in the weeds. I manage several $100 million of clients' assets. So I do understand it. And again, no disrespect to leaders of businesses like mine who don't do it. But I feel it keeps me very active with what's going on.
Yeah, sure. And it seems like quite a high wire act to someone like me looking from outside in. And I also get the feeling, though, listen to you talk about this, is that it is also something that kind of keeps you going. It is that, you excel at it. And that's your kind of like a zone, right?
It is. It's good and it's bad. I have this coach that I work with, and I've realized I don't have many hobbies, which is not a good thing. I had a lot. I've had some back surgery and stuff, so I had to give up all my martial arts and things that I was very passionate about. But my hobby became XML, and that's not it's good and bad. But I do love the entrepreneurial spirit. I think that what we do, it's a chess match. I'm playing chess with my team because I have many different personalities and dynamics to deal with. I've got to solve problems with clients. I get the strategies of the M&A. So I feel like I'm getting all these things. Some people like to build Legos. Some people do puzzles. Some people love to watch movies. I like this, and because I have so many facets of what I do, you're right. I mean, I feel like I have all these different things that keep me going. I feel like it keeps me youthful, keeps my mind going. It doesn't mean I have a lot of downtime, but that's my own fault. So it's not for everyone. I will definitely say it's not for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, as they say, when you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life.
Brett.
Now, Brett, you had quite a journey, and one of the things I like to get into a little bit is obstacles in the road. It seems like it's moonlight and roses from the outside in, but people tell me that it's not always like that. All right. So have you ever had a situation either through XML or outside of XML, with you and your professional career and things like that, where you hit sort of like a low or sometimes they call it the dark night of the soul type of a moment where you thought going was tough?
Yeah. I mean, I think the nature of what we do when the markets go down and you can't control it,
Right.
you take it personally. I'm entrusted to handle my clients' money. I'm entrusted to, 50 plus people and their livelihoods.
Sure.
I can't control what the markets do. I can't control if someone tweets something and the markets go down. Right. But what I can control is how we interact with our clients. I can control how we communicate. So those lulls do weigh on you at times.
Yeah.
And so I would say for me, a lot of times they are market driven when that happens.
Yeah.
Look, in life, we lose clients. It happens. In one way, they pass away, and that's expected, right, in life.
Sure.
But you've had clients that leave. And fortunately for me, the clients that I have had leave, it's never bad. Sometimes it's a difference of philosophies, or they want to go in a different direction, but it still hurts.
Sure.
And you start having to reflect and say, did I do something wrong? Could I have done something differently? And I can say 100% of the time when I look back, and me personally, when I've had clients that have left, there's nothing I could have done differently. Sometimes it's just a difference of philosophy. But at that moment, you feel down. And, if you believe in the things of three, it's like, I lost one client. I got two more coming. But I think those are moments that when I was younger, I took it a lot harder. As I've gotten a little older, a little more mature in business, I'm able to reflect and try to really learn from it. And I look at everything, any negative thing that happens, a mistake, if a client leaves, an employee, whatever it may be, we have to reflect and learn upon it so we can make it better moving forward.
Yes. And on that point, Brett, is there a difference, entrepreneurial journey and even just journey of life, it sometimes changes us, like on the inside. And because of that journey, we change. That it kind of carves deep into us in a good way, but it may not feel like it's a good thing when we're going through it. So, what is the difference between Brett today, right here, right this moment, having this conversation, and Brett, however back you can go, however far back you can go, 2004 or beyond, or when you were a child or anything
multiple
like that?
Kids, multiple dogs, multiple homes, more expenses. Now, putting the obvious aside, I think I am a much more accepting person.
Yeah.
I'm more accepting of people and who they are. I'm not going to say their faults. We're different. And so I'm more accepting of understanding why a team member is the way they are. Yeah. I might choose to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't expect someone else to work outside 9 to 5. That does not make them a bad team member.
Right.
That's their job, and they're great at their job. I have to learn to be more accepting. I've learned to listen more. I want to really understand why someone is upset or what they're trying to accomplish. That doesn't mean that we're going to have a meeting of the minds, but I've learned to listen. So I think being more accepting, being more tolerable or tolerant, and listening to people are probably the biggest differences, I would say, Brett, today. And look, let's be honest, leaving a company like Merrill Lynch, taking the risk of starting your own business, living through the tech bubble, the 2008 recession, a pandemic, reinventing our firm when we had Focus Financial Partners, kind of merge with us. The number of personalities I deal with clients as well as my team, being married for now coming on 25 years, having, 2 daughters, 2 dogs. I mean, those things in life, those experiences certainly, I think, allow you to look at stuff in a different light.
100%. All of this changes. And sometimes, and I know you said your hobby is XML. And, but I have to ask you this. Is there a place, is there a way, when the things are just changing around us, sometimes we kind of crave, or I do at least, sort of like this solace, place of grounding or place of rooting, right? Something that doesn't change. Yep. And it could be something physical that we go to, or it could be something metaphorical. So, we reflect or go in or some combination of those things. Mm-hmm. What do you do to ground yourself or root yourself amongst all of these things happening with you and around you?
Yeah. So part is I'm a reality television junkie. I can't watch the news anymore. So my evenings are around junk reality television.
Love it.
But that is a place that I know that I don't have to think, right? I can just like watch stupidity and just, kind of get lost in it. So that's one thing. But, I'm fortunate to move between different locations of where I reside. And so I have the benefit of, while I may work 7 days a week, if I go to take my dogs on 6 walks a day, I can enjoy a nice weather. I can see different scenery. And so I'm not one of those people that need to take a ton of big vacations. I feel like because I move my life around, I'm very fortunate to put myself in different places that allow me, if I get mentally down, because look, being outside of the DC market, as I know you are, I can't listen to the politics anymore. So when I can leave,
I can't either.
Right? And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on; it doesn't matter.
No, I don't listen to the news anymore.
Oh, it drives me insane. But when I can leave that environment and park myself in a different environment where people are just there. Look, I'll give you an example. I started spending some time in Florida. Not obviously politically wise, but where I was, no one's talking about politics. They're just living and working, and it's an outside lifestyle, and it was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm working nonstop, but to your point, it allowed me to take a step back, get in a happy place, and look, happier I am, I think I'm a better husband, father, leader of my business, and then all trickles down.
You made that connection, and I see a lot of people who don't make that connection. The connection that you made, the happier that I am, the nicer I am to other people. I think that almost all of the bad behavior, things, people treating other people badly, it comes from the inner place of unhappiness, I think. So that when you truly are happy inside, then it just comes out. So the way we treat ourselves inside is how we treat others.
I agree. So, it's a great point. I mean, I've unfortunately had 13 or 14 surgeries. I wish I had a good story behind it. I had one that was a little martial arts related, so that's my only good one. But but when you spend 21 weeks in non-weight bearing casts in your ankles, when you've had a double lumbar spinal fusion and rods and things put in, you have to slow down for a minute. Now, does it weigh on your mental and physical well-being? Yes, but you have to learn to get through that and get better. And so I think the things we're talking about, whether it's watching a reality television or going to a place and enjoying some warm weather and getting outside, again, it doesn't change my amount of work. It's allowed me to figure out how to get from these tough spots to a better person. And again, like you said, if I'm feeling better, then my entire team should feel that, my family should feel that, my friends should feel that, and ultimately my clients should feel that as well.
Sure. Love it. Absolutely. And I'm going to ask 2 questions, very quick ones, because I'm sure anyone who's listening to this they're probably wondering about it. What's your favorite reality show? and what kind of martial art did you practice?
Right now it's the 90 Day Fiancé series. They have so many spin-offs. So I'm fascinating watching different cultures get together, and some that work and some that you can say this is a train crash. It's nowhere it's going to happen. So that's my big one right now.
Okay.
And I did small circle jiu-jitsu for a little bit, and then I spent many years doing Krav Maga. So heavy combat fighting. I loved it, but my body could not take the beating after a while.
Yeah. But here you are. Hey. Anything that we have not covered so far? Anything that you want to say? A question that you wish you had asked, but I didn't ask, but you want to answer, or something that you want to mention for our audience and for this conversation?
No, I think you've done a great job. I mean, I think at the end of the day, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what role you have, I think you need to be happy. I think you need to make sure you communicate with the people you're around. Sometimes, too many times, people look to say, "Oh, something's tough. I'm just going to pivot and go somewhere else." It doesn't matter if you're a leader or a rank and file team member. Have a dialogue. Explain where you are, what the frustration is. I just find 99% of everything can be fixed with communication. And so I think the problem 100%. Is too many people, whether it's culturally, whether it's a generational thing, they hide behind emails. They hide now they can hide behind chat, GBT and AI. Sometimes just pick up the phone, walk in person, click on a Zoom, and most things can be solved and become better moving forward. And so that's one thing I really strive for. And I think, it's kind of at the meat of this, it's the culture of what we do. It's this open door policy.
Yeah.
And I think too many times companies don't breed that.
Sure.
And so what I just say to people is, if you're in an organization that won't let you do that, go somewhere else. And if you're in one that allows it, then lean into it. Because you're only going to become better. The company's only going to become better. So that's kind of my biggest thing that I would say is communication.
Absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned AI, Brett, and I wanted to. I was starting to wrap up the conversation, but I have to.
No problem.
I have to go here. And you happen to be in an industry where you read the silly articles, which I think are silly. They say the consulting is going away and advisory services are going away because there is AI. And my response to that is that, hey, if your advisory services and your consulting services can be replaced by AI, you should not be an advisory and consulting services business to begin with, right? Anyway, that's my take. What's your take on the AI and the kind of services that it brings to people and what you bring to them?
Yeah, I mean, specifically to our business, look, there are people that want to invest and do it themselves. I respect that.
Yeah.
There's people that like robo-advisors. I respect that
Sure.
too.
Sure.
And then there's always going to be a segment that want people like us.
Yeah.
I don't care how good AI is. AI is not going to connect with you when your parent passes away and you need me to hold your hand through that emotional time to solve all these problems. Okay.
Sure.
Yes, you might be able to read it quickly on AI, or chat can help you write the email. I'm not saying that doesn't have value. I think that AI is the wave of the future and is going to make some jobs obsolete. I think it can make a lot of things more efficient. Okay.
Right.
And potentially a lot of opportunities. But for me as a business owner, I'm not trying to compete with someone who wants AI to do their financial plan or manage their money. If that's what you want, you should go there. But if you want someone like me talking about different strategies and things and understanding it, and more importantly, when we get on the call and it's, how are your kids doing? How's mom and dad doing?
Right.
That you're not getting from me. I don't care what people say, you're not going to get that human interaction. And so I'm a big believer in it. I think it adds value. We're always looking every day of how to incorporate it into our practice. Obviously, there's a lot of regulatory things that come into play.
Sure.
I think you're foolish not to embrace it. But I also think you said it best. If you can be replaced, then either you're not adding the value or you have the wrong client, because the client really never wanted you.
Sure. What's next for you? Next for you and for XML?
Next for XML is to continue to grow. I think when we started this journey, our goal was to get to 5 billion in client assets we serve. We're not that far off. I think through an amazing team, and I think through markets and through some M&A activity, my next goal will be 10 billion. But with the right people, right? It has to be the right people.
Right.
Me personally, my wife and I are empty nesters now, so it's a new chapter of, while the kids, with technology, you still get the texts and everything all day, but
video calls, right?
And so trying to enjoy some of that, a little bit more of that freedom maybe that you have.
Absolutely.
But no set guideline. Try to travel. I think that's something I like to do and see different parts of the world. I love to experience different cultures. And stay healthy.
That's all.
Like I said, I have 13 or 14 surgeries. I'd like not to have one, so try to stay healthy.
That's awesome. Brett, who is a good person for you to connect with right now, and how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, I think there's two different types. A couple. If it's someone who is in the financial services industry and they're looking to partner with the firm, maybe they don't have a succession plan, or they're an advisor who just isn't happy, that's one. If it's a client, right, an investor who says, I like the philosophy of this person and what they're about, I'd love to learn more. Those are probably the two biggest things. And the best ways to reach us are on our website, which is xmlfg.com. And you can also email me at Brett with 2 T's at xmlfg.com. Those are the easiest ways to learn about us and to get in contact with me directly.
Absolutely. Brett, this has been a fascinating conversation and unbelievable. What you've done with XML and the way that you've done it is deeply touching. I think it's crazy what you've done, and crazy in a good way. And thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your tips, ideas, your nuggets of gold. And thanks for being on this podcast.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.